Happy Monday,
Hey,
guys.
happy Monday. For some of you, it's Motivational Monday. For others, it's Mindful Monday. But if you're here on Say That channel, it's the Monday Rundown.
Say that,
Woo!
say that, say that. Welcome into another amazing week, guys.
Um, Thank you for joining us. My name is Janelle Villiers. That over there is Winston Broderick. We are your hosts, and we love the Monday Rundowns because we get to talk about all the things that we don't get to talk about on our Wednesday shows. So Wednesdays are earmarked for business and entrepreneurship, but on Mondays we get to talk about all the other topics, so many. And you guys have been bringing us some great topics, so keep bringing those in, keep sending them to us. And then we
Yes,
learn from other content creators, other thought leaders about their ideas around the subject. And that way we all learn together.
absolutely. Guys, let's dive into today's topic.
How far is too far in the pursuit of success? Hmm. How far is too far in the pursuit of success? To me, too far is when your mental health is impacted.
Mm,
So if you feel like, I'll just give you an example. I mean, I've known these signs before, but I remember when it was happening to me, I was like, wait, is this really happening? But I in general, like, I focus on a lot of different things. My mind goes from thing to thing, but then it like goes to, there's like another level, and it's like I really can't focus on anything for like longer than maybe 60 seconds to 2 minutes. um and like when I can't focus, I start like spiraling in other thoughts, and usually involving negative emotions and things like that. I find myself tired and yet
mm,
unable to sleep. And for those who know me, Winston does, I usually have no problems falling asleep. Like none, none.
yeah, yeah.
I'm tired, I fall asleep. So for me to not be able to sleep or have extremely restless sleeps where I sleep but then I wake up, I sleep and then I wake up, I know that something's up, and I am something is affecting me and my mental health. So those are signs for me personally. And I get it, like you do want to, there's always like you're getting yourself out of your comfort zone when you're pursuing success. You're always trying new things. The best way to learn is, through failure, not doing things well. Totally agree with all of those things. But I feel like there's a stress, and then there's like this point where it's like you go
Mm,
over
mm.
that, and then it affects your mental health, and that's not a healthy place. So that's what I would say.
No, I love that. I love that. And I think what you're to kind of piggyback on what you're sharing is it almost starts to manifest itself in a physical way, like you're
Mm,
describing. So it goes which I think is really a really good point because many people, I think in a lot of things that we've read now, we've become aware that many disease that people
mm,
are dealing with are in some way representative of some type of emotional or mental
mhm,
distress that they're in, and it's just showing up as a in a physical, it manifesting in a physical way. So I think
mhm,
that's a really good point. I would say, yeah, if whatever you're going after, and it's so weird because then I know that there's that point where it's like how long do you want to stay in that state, right? But
yeah,
when it gets to, I think what you really pointed out is really good because it didn't show up that way right away. It was
right.
probably something else, and it was just building to that point. But I love what you said because it's what when we get to the point where you're physically going through something, I think that should be just a really big sign to say stop.
Mm-mm-mm.
You just need some
Or
time
to
for yourself.
very least slow down.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think it's just about really knowing yourself, and yeah, because no, it may not be someone may not be able to see that's
Mhm,
going on for you, and it's really good to just recognize if you are having. For me, I would look at that where there's a period where I mean I go to the gym fairly regularly, but something happened and it took me out of not being there for a few months, and
mhm,
I had to just take the time to realize that you go through ebbs and flows. So physically I know I've taken a step back in some degree, but I know in other ways I'm grateful for the chance to just rest because it just wasn't worth pushing through and potentially hurting myself long term, just to continue going. So I think it's all, we each got to just know ourselves and take the I don't know, the language that like the body keeps the score kind of comes to mind. One of those. So yeah.
Love it. Well, we are going to turn to one of our favorites. You guys know them. We love them. The School of Life.
All right,
hear what
let's
they
do
have
it.
to say on the topic. Let's all learn
Take us
together.
to school. Take us to school, guys.
We are, most of us, likely at some point in childhood to have been told the story of Daedalus and Icarus. This ancient Greek myth, which dates back to the earliest days of civilization, introduces us to the gifted and canny architect Daedalus, who was imprisoned by evil King Minos in a tall tower in an isolated corner of Crete, together with his beloved son Icarus. Unwilling to spend the rest of his days in captivity, Daedalus constructed some wings by gluing together the feathers of passing birds with beeswax, and invited Icarus to join him on the window ledge in a bid for freedom. But with one caveat. If Icarus ever went too high, the sun's rays would turn the wax into liquid, and Icarus would be done for. After successfully negotiating a way through Cretan airspace, somewhere past Samos, despite his father's kindly and patient warnings, Icarus got carried away. The young man couldn't keep a handle on his joy. His wings fell apart, and he plunged into the sea just off the coast of a picturesque small island that honors his memory to this day, Icaria. The way we're typically told the story, the moral is weighted firmly in one direction. Don't get over-exuberant. Keep a rein on your impulses. Make sure you don't get big-headed. Don't show off. Calm yourself. The myth would not have entered the folklore of our species if this were not supremely sensible advice. Clearly, no good life is possible without a sharp awareness of the perils of egomania and of untempered raw appetite. But the very solidity of the message is at risk of blinding us to a crucial subsidiary idea lurking covertly within the narrative. This is not just a tale of pride and arrogance, not just a tale of getting too big for one's boots and of neglecting one's true position. It's also a story of hope, of necessary escape, of giving something a chance, of not remaining locked up forever at the whims of foolish authorities, of daring to plot an alternative. For every one person who jumps out of towers without sufficient self-control, there are, we should note, others, perhaps many others, who just as tragically stay in towers their whole lives long, not just in one room, but at the edge of a box, within a cupboard, under a bed, too frightened ever to accede to their own potency and freedom, too timid ever to dare to evade unfair restrictions, too cowed to bring themselves to imagine a better future. There are, when we look at the matter squarely, in fact, two morals in this central ancient Greek myth. The traditional one about the troubles of flying too close to the sun, and also, more quietly, the lesser-known one about the terrible risks of remaining a prisoner all one's life. There is a figure in this story to whom we should look for clues as to how we might handle the painful dichotomy at play. It's Daedalus, who, despite what eventually transpired, should be recognized as having tried with particular dexterity to model for his son what a successful life could be like. He didn't just warn Icarus of boundless dangers. He didn't just go on about how bold schemes never work out and how timidity is mandatory. He expressly didn't want his son to spend the rest of his days in confinement. He spoke to him of the possibilities of trying on wings. He wanted his child to head out on the prevailing currents and to have a shot at reaching new lands. We should not inevitably deploy examples of ghastly accidents to impede our appetite for novelty and satisfaction. We have clever minds with which to plot sound escape routes. We can be ingenious in the face of our enemies. We must, of course, take sensible precautions. There are, of course, requirements for strategy and forbearance. But if we only ever think of safety, if all we're obsessed by are the crashes, then we're fated to die in despair at any case. There must and can be a good midway point between succumbing in a prison and drowning out at sea. What typically shapes our underlying attitudes is, as it were, who Daedalus was for us. There are fathers and mothers who talk to us gently and imaginatively about risks and returns. They discuss the downsides of overexcitement, but also of those of meekness. And then there are others who cannot countenance their children ever taking to the skies, perhaps because they still haven't worked out a way out of prison for themselves. We know a lot, maybe too much, about the catastrophes that can follow from ambition. We shouldn't allow ourselves to forget that whatever the fate of poor Icarus, there are always equally potent risks bound up with never pushing ourselves a little closer to our sun's vital and warming rays.
I love that. I love paying attention to Daedalus because Icarus definitely gets all of the action time, or at least in our memories,
sure.
right? And I love the way that they balanced that story. If you watched us last week, you know we were talking about Odysseus. You're on like a Greek mythology
A
theme.
bit of a travel bug.
Yeah, right? Tell me about it.
What? No, for sure.
I just appreciated the attention to Daedalus and how that's the balance. It's the vision to continue to take risks and push forward and just recognize limitations and things like that.
No, great point. And I think what's interesting is even the way we answered the question before we saw the video speaks to how we remember that story. I think we both took the focus on Icarus part of the answer. It was like, hey, don't do too much, don't be burnt out, recognize the signs in you and all that stuff. And yeah, then we didn't consider the other side where you do have to push. And a lot of the people who have made, what we consider successful lives have been those people who have learned how to, like you said, focus on how the way the father went through the process. I'm still thinking, Daedalus, thank you. You can fly, but just don't get too big on yourself. Yeah, which is a really good lesson.
So, man, I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this one. Like, let us know in the comments, please. I want to hear how this landed for you guys. This was really good. Another good. Thank you, School of Life.
Say that.
All right, we'll be back next week. But until then, as always, remember, you deserve the good life. Say that.
Say that. Enjoy your week, guys. Be well.